Hi, welcome back to Porch Therapy. I wanted to talk today about 5 things I've learned since I got laid off. Now, I worked for over 35 years for the same company. We were a government contractor in East Tennessee. I traveled a lot, worked with a lot of people, made connections in the company, and had what I thought was a good career, a good job. But I have learned some things that I guess were eye-opening to me after being laid off or fired or forced into retirement. Depends on how you look at it. Not long before I was told officially that I was being let go, a coworker said to me that he had heard that many human resources, had started to look at longtime employees who didn't advance up the corporate chain as complacent, as lazy, that if you weren't aggressive in your career, then you weren't useful anymore, that you weren't really trying, you were just kind of riding it out for a paycheck. So that was something I learned the hard way, that it's not just enough to do your job anymore, to take satisfaction in your work, which I did. I have been doing a similar thing for the last 20 years of my service with that company, and I thought that was more than enough because I liked it. My customers, the government people that I worked with, spoke highly of me. We had a good relationship. The work was effective and successful. So I thought that was enough. But apparently, by me not wanting to go into management, not wanting to climb that corporate ladder, HR and the higher ups thought I just didn't have enough to offer. So if there's any advice there, it's maybe look at what you're doing. Maybe if you're in a company like that isn't going to look at your work and respect it, go somewhere else, because you don't want to wait till you're 61 and it's hard to find somewhere else. That leads me to the number 2 thing I learned, which is seniority really doesn't matter. Like I said, I had 35 and a half years with the company. Thought that was enough, that would let me keep working till I was ready to retire, which would have been another 5 to 7 years. It didn't matter. They basically replaced me with somebody that's been there less than 3 years. And obviously for less money, but the seniority didn't matter. When I brought that up on the day that I was told I was being let go, they said, well, that person is in a different position. That what they meant was that the pay level was different. And I get that. And I also get that there were a lot of layoffs because of the DOGE budget cuts, and that was, hard decisions were being made. But seniority doesn't matter when it comes down to the final decision. Youthful inexperience, they think, is still youthful. And, there's perceptions about age, I guess, and how long you're going to keep working and how long you're going to be a good worker. So they made that decision. They didn't evaluate my experience. They just looked at cost, looked at youth, and let me go. Third thing I learned was you're really just a number on a spreadsheet. Doesn't matter what relationships you have. Doesn't matter, again, seniority and other things. It comes down to cost. And I know that times were tough. I get that. It was a horrible time. The budget cuts, hurt thousands of civil servants and contractors, and things were tough. Hard decisions had to be made, and I recognized that. Still, I can disagree with a lot of the decisions that were made, and they can look at the numbers, but in the long run, you have to look at the future, and having people that know what they're doing and have some experience might be good to keep around. But again, the bottom line is you're a number. Doesn't matter what relationships you have, doesn't matter how long you've worked there or what you've done, you're a number. So that loyalty you might have, or that I had, isn't going to be returned. You're not the friend, you're not a person that they might have gone out to dinner with, that they've laughed with, that you've traveled with. When it comes down to it, you're a number. The fourth thing I learned was trust no one. It doesn't matter how good a relationship you have with your manager or other people upline. It doesn't matter if you think they respect you and they wouldn't lie to you. It's just the way it is. They're going to lie because they don't want you to be looking for a job or leave before they're ready for you to leave. They need you until they don't need you anymore. And I know there's business reasons behind it. I'm sure there are HR rule books or trainings that they go through that say it's okay. I guess that's one reason I never wanted to be in management. I didn't want to treat people that way. I'd rather sleep well at night, and maybe other people can, and that's fine. They can sleep well and treat people that way. I couldn't do it, and I guess that's another reason I was laid off. But that's not part of my 5. So, like I said, don't trust anybody. They will lie, omit, avoid, and then when you kind of least expect it, even if there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of layoffs, you're going to fool yourself in your mind. You're going to think it's not me, especially if you've been there a while. I thought that. I was naive. So it was a gut punch. And, you just can't trust that they're going to tell you the truth. So finally, another thing that I didn't realize was once you're gone, you're gone. They really, you just don't exist anymore to them, to the company. I didn't expect to have really no contact with the majority of the people I worked with. That kind of took me by surprise. It's a very strange thing when you communicate with people several times a week, some people daily, and you travel with people and you spend time, you go out to eat and you laugh and sit in airports for long delays and talk about your family and talk about things you want to do in the future and talk about the job and complain about different things, that they would just be gone. And you're suddenly just dead. You don't exist. And that was a surprise. There's really just in my group one person who's kept contact with me, and there's a few who've retired that still are great friends. They were they keep up and check in on me. The most surprising thing was somebody that worked at a hotel in DC that I've known for 25 years. Great guy. He's a meeting coordinator at this hotel in DC. We've worked together all this time. I see him 4 or 5 times a year when I was traveling. He's called me twice since I was laid off to check on me. And not a single manager, coworker that I've spent so much more time with. And I get it. It's opened my eyes. I've had a lot of self-reflection. I haven't done that well either, and I don't blame them. I get it. It's awkward. They have their jobs. I don't. I didn't do it, and I have a lot of regrets about that now, that I didn't follow up and check on people that I was, not necessarily great friends with, but friends. I didn't follow up. So a lesson for me, and I've tried to do better now that, of course, I have time, and I don't work there, so there's no awkward conversations about the job or, talking bad about the people who made the decisions. And I understand the awkwardness. I just wasn't prepared for it. So that's something to be aware of. And if people in your life, in your companies, are let go, you can have careful conversations, but just maybe reach out. I'm going to try to keep in touch with people that were, and let them know, they're still thought about. So that's 5 of the things I learned initially after being laid off. There's a lot more that I'm learning. I'm learning every day, and trying to deal with it. And some days are better than others, and a lot of my life now is not about the fact that I was fired. Very little of my day is spent wallowing in that. For those who say get over it, it's just a fact. So that's where I'm at, and doing better every day, trying to take care of myself. So you take care of yourself, and I hope you have a great day.